the Khmer Republic. The North Vietnam sent a number of its military discovery support by tanks and artillery to help fight the American-backed Khmer Republic. The government said they trained newly recruit force and also resist in the transformation of the weapons from China to Khmer Rouge. Vietnam Communist support helped the Khmer Rouge to increase their army force and several thousand soldiers in early 1970s to over 40,000 in 1973. By the end of 1972, the Khmer Rouge unit were well organized and trained. They were able to take command independently from Vietnam and were preparing to establish their own military division. All of the men in control of this army, namely Pol Pot, Nun Chia, So Ping, Tha Mong, and Son Sen, were later to occupy Prime Minister placed in leadership at the heart of democratic Cambodia. 1972-73, main part of the territory under Khmer Rouge control. At the end of 1972, the majors of the North Vietnam troops withdrew from Cambodia. The Communist Party of Cambodia took full control of the army and took the lead in the war. By the beginning of 1973, the Khmer Rouge controlled the major of Cambodian territory, 85% part of a very narrow consider. Sketching from Phnom Penh along the west river bank of the Tonle Sap up to the northwest border with Thailand, area that remained under Khmer Republic control were the province towns of Battambang, Bolsat, Bailin, Kampong Speu, Siem Reap, Kampong Thom, and Kampong Som. U.S. boarding fuel in Khmer Rouge ranks. The torrent of American bombs dropped on Khmer during the war in Vietnam was huge. In the cause of secret bombings from 1965 to 1972, there were 2.7 million top dropped on Cambodian based on the 2006 publication of Tyler Owens and Ben Kenna. The same author released the figure following the new finding made by anti-tropical guys Hoi Hai, who studied the original Air Force CDAP and Kata Day base. They included that it remains undisputed from 1969 to 1973 alone. Around 500,000 tons of U.S. bombs were dropped on Cambodia. The bombing did delay the Khmer Rouge victory, but at the same time they helped the Khmer Rouge to recruit more force. The Khmer Rouge bought people to see the bombs crater and the destruction of houses, properties, castles, and people lived to stir up the anger. The American bombs could have killed probably the rate of 50,000 to 150,000 Cambodians. Up to 1/3 of the population was displaced. Mortal and military dispatched of Khmer Republic. Within a few years, the Khmer Republic government lost the support and confidence of the people, and the military conscription measure launched by President Lanoy on 25 June 1970 was unpopular. Frank propaganda, the economic downturn corruption related against pro-Long Noi people and the Khmer Rouge daily sabotage ensured and the decline of the Khmer Republic regime. The counter of Khmer Rouge attacked. The Khmer Republic government increased its military cooperation with U.S. and South Vietnam Army Force. However, despite the launch of two major military operations in 1970s and 1971 by the Khmer Republic, Operation Jena and Operation Jena, the Long Noi Army faced a dispatch against experiment North Vietnam and Khmer Rouge force at the end of October, which recording to Republic Lieutenant General Sasakan was the greatest catastrophe of the war, causing heavy loss in men and materials. 1973, the Khmer Republic Army on its own. Between 1972 and 1974, the Khmer Republic government was trapped between the Khmer Rouge force by its own political discord and corrupt injustice and social and among crews on the international stage. The U.S. and North Vietnam signed a ceasefire in July 1973 and August 1973. The U.S. stopped its strategic operations in support of Khmer Republic force and began to withdraw from its military government on Indochina due to civil laws in Vietnam and the public outcry against the war back in their country. However, the U.S. continued to deliver rice, gallons, materials, supplies, and military equipment, and to provide political support to the Khmer Republic. This humanitarian support allowed the Khmer Republic government to breathe for another 2 years. The inspirations of Phnom Penh. By the middle of 1974, the Khmer Rouge had already infiltrated Phnom Penh from others provincial cities which were key places in the defense system of the Khmer Republic. Kampong Cham, for instance, had been an important battlefield, as had Takeo, Kampot, Kampong Sao, and Udong Town, which came under Khmer Rouge control. In March 1974, the Khmer Rouge refused to negate to enter into the ceasefire argument. Instead, the KR reinforced their position on the international stage and their military offensives inside the country. The number of refugees fleeing in the combat zone increased to more than 2 million in Phnom Penh alone. This situation further weakened and very survival of Captain and Company food supplies became insufficient, and there were only 2 ways to bring in supplies: Pochangton Airport and the corridor up the Mekong and Passat rivers. The Khmer Rouge often launched attacks on Mekong River convoys. 17 April 1975, the end of the Khmer Republic. The Khmer Rouge finally offensive on Phnom Penh started on the 1st of July 1975. 3 months later, on the 1st April and strongest Khmer Republic military base in Net Long, located on the Mekong about 16 kilometers south of Phnom Penh, fell opening. The gates to the capital, seeing invisible fall of Phnom Penh, Lorno and his family flee the country and settled in Hawaii, USA. On the 12th of April, the American embassy evacuated. It's staffed by helicopter. U.S. Ambassador John Gather Ben folded up the American flag and flee Cambodia. Eventually, Phnom Penh fell under the KR forces right after the Khmer New Year. On 17 April 1975, the Khmer rode top every direction into the capital. By midday, they had already instructed and forced people to leave the city with no exception. The consequences of the war. Besides the death toll during the war, which is still controversial, the Khmer rose and held a country that had been arranged by years of war and that had to be rebuilt. The Cambodian economy was primarily based on agriculture, but this selection has been severely affected by insecurity and by the farmers' exodus to escape battle. As a consequence, the price of 100 kilograms of rice in Phnom Penh, which was over 2,000 reals in August 1972, increased to 39,000 reals in March 1975. In the progress, all factories slowed down or held their produce. The community's line has been highly disrupted and damaged roads, bridges, airports, etc. So the Cambodian people were seeking peace above all.